Little quick note before you guys get into the episode. This is actually going to be a two-parter. The conversation with this week's guest was so amazing, and we had such an amazing time just kind of chit-chatting with each other and talking about pop culture that it went on longer than the podcast normally goes for. Now, I know that we all have short attention spans, so I didn't want to release a 2 hour and 20-minute podcast episode. So instead, we are releasing these in two parts. So the part one is going to cover our conversation, us getting to know each other, our little chats, and get into some of the pop culture roundup. And then the part two will get into more of the pop culture roundup and more about her. I think you guys are really, really going to love these episodes. They were so insightful. It was a pleasure getting to talk to this guest. I don't want to say her name because I don't want to give it away. You guys will get to see her really soon. But I can't wait for you guys to listen. I think you'll fully understand why this needs to be two parts. And I appreciate it.
Yeah.
We got into the controversy because of we were stealing signals, or we were reading behind the lines of other teams' signals.
Oh,
And that one's
yeah.
kind of interesting because apparently it's a thing that isn't like not common. I mean, like
Yeah.
it's a common thing, but we were
Yeah.
just
How
doing
did
it,
they
I
get
guess, at like,
found out? Yeah, like how did
I don't
I'm
know.
so curious.
I have no idea.
Yeah. Because I
I
feel like people
mean,
are doing that all the time, just never openly enough to get in trouble for
caught.
it. Yeah.
I mean, sports espionage is like not a, that's a thing. That's a really big
Oh my
thing.
god.
I don't know how. My best guess is a tip off. I could make speculations about that, but that's not for me to.
I mean, the world of college sports is just so wild. Like, I often think about that sports scandal where they were like paying for the teams, like they were paying for spots on the teams, like a lot of like rich people. Do you not know about that? Is that what your face says?
No.
Oh
This
my
is
god.
this is new to me.
Okay, this was a while. When was this? I have to remember. I have to look up when it was. But essentially, like, did you ever watch Full House?
Yes.
So Lori Loughlin, who was like Aunt
Oh,
Becky, it
yes,
was
I
that
do
one. It
know
was
what you're
that one.
talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Where like they were like one of the people, but essentially like all of these coaches, right, were like giving these like spots on their teams to these like wealthy people who were paying for the spots, but like the people weren't actually, the kids weren't actually on the teams.
Yeah.
They like faked all their like they doctored photos, they faked their stats. Like I watched the documentary. It was crazy. I was like, I'm not surprised this is happening, but also, my God.
I wanna watch the documentary, so I have to check it out, but I
Amazing.
also kind of felt really sad. I mean, obviously, it's a gross abuse of privilege, right?
100%.
But, like, to use Lori Loughlin as, like, the spearhead of it felt really unfair. They basically just took out how they felt about all of it going on her and her kids.
Yeah.
And it was like, at the end of the day, although, it's a white collar crime and it's a crime of
Yeah.
privilege, and she did prevent people from like getting into college. Her biggest
Yeah.
crime
Yeah.
was wanting to get her daughter in a good college.
I think that's complicated, right? I think it's like I understand that they want to get their kids into college, so then do it in a way that is supporting their like pathway to college and like education. Like if you
Mhm.
have all the money in the world, you can get tutor. Like I went to a school where not that many people went to 4-year universities, and it's like it wasn't until I got to UCLA I was like, oh, a lot of the people that I went to college with had all these prep classes and like had
Mhm.
all this stuff. And meanwhile, I was trying to argue with the administration to let me take more than one AP class because I was like, I'd like to go to a 4 university. Like they didn't really they cared about people graduating, but they didn't care about, people getting into college or their careers. And if you have all this money, you can essentially support your child into like getting into the tutoring classes, getting good scores, like, whatever it is that people do to be able to get into these like universities and take the tours and go to the days where you can meet people and whatever it is. Like I feel like that is a way to use your resources that's still is not taking away from other people because especially like sports spots are ways that a lot of people who can't afford to go to college get into these schools. And so you're actually taking it from somebody who could have gotten a scholarship, you know?
Yeah. And that's like that's the part that is frustrating, but I just don't like the way that it was handled.
Yeah.
Me
Yeah,
personally.
yeah. Totally.
It's a scandal for sure, but it was almost as like we're let's distract the world from like everything else going on. So we'll focus on this scandal, which isn't like no one was shocked. No one was shocked when this came out.
I think we
We're
weren't shocked, but I think other people were. Like, a lot of people, I
mm,
think, who aren't aware of I don't know, I feel like often just rich people live in their own reality that is, like, not ours. And
mhm,
when you've been exposed to it enough or thought about it enough, you can not be surprised by these things. But when
mhm.
people don't think about that or don't have any kind of understanding of just how different it is, I think there were people who were surprised.
That's interesting. Me and my co-host, I have like an indie author podcast. We
Mhm.
just had a conversation about like Chat GPT
Mm.
and the writing sphere because I do another podcast for indie authors and she and I are both
Mhm.
indie authors. And so we've landed on different sides of the Chat GPT and I've often like the like debate a little bit and I've often
Yeah.
wondered, does it have something to do with our like different backgrounds that like I'm and be clear, she's on the side that like she hates Chat GPT. And I'm on the side where I'm like, I don't agree with how it's done. I think that it needs regulation, but I do think that it is a tool that can help people of color and minorities level up. And so, and her points are valid. She was like, it was I don't want to say funny. Funny's the wrong word, but she was like, they're up they're upending these families from their homes so that they can build their data centers and their data centers are raising the temperatures up and one old elderly couple just died and I'm like that's been going on for like ever. Like that has nothing to do with I mean, like, it has everything to do with ChatGPT, but it has nothing to do with ChatGPT because the truth is that that's been happening for forever, and that is simply because our government allows that to happen based on our laws and rules that we have. And so it always made me wonder if for ChatGPT, if some people are having their like first moment because they're also afraid of like their words being stolen and their art being stolen and as a person of color, you almost come to, like, expect that.
Yeah, I have a few things actually in response to that. I think one, yes, like right, I see the world through a very psychological lens, and I think that is a really big thing to understand is that your background, the way you grew up, the things you've been exposed to, the people you've met, like all of that really does influence how you and even like honestly how you're feeling in that exact moment that you're having the conversation, right? And like
Mhm,
all of that influences how you perceive things and how you understand them and what your relationship to it is. So that is very true. Like that is a studied fact that like your
mhm,
everything about you influences the way you perceive things. Like I vividly remember in one of my first psychology classes because I double majored in communication studies and psychology, and I remember this is like dating me a little bit, but our professor was like, people move through the world. It's this concept of naive realism. People move through the world
mhm,
thinking that everybody has, like, a video recorder. I think he said, like, camcorder, so that's how, like, long ago it was, but, and we think that everyone is looking at the same footage, but in reality, that's not true. In reality,
mhm,
we are all experiencing the same exact moment differently. Like, you and I can sit here, and we're in the same conversation, we're in the same space, but everything about ourselves influences the way that we show up, right? So I think you're right, that's, like, a completely accurate thing. I think the AI thing is really interesting to me because I think what I've realized about a lot of things, like this is not just about AI, I think this is a lot about the world, is that
mhm,
people can't hold duality, complexity, and nuance. And like that's what's
mhm,
really hard in a lot of these debates is that a lot of times it's a yes and like I've been part of a lot of conversations with people on both ends of that spectrum, even in the AI space, right? Where it's like
mhm,
AI is the solution to all of our problems. It should do everything. And then on the other end, it's like it's the devil. Everything is the worst thing in the world. And I
mhm,
really do think that there is a middle ground. Like you
mhm,
said, like it is a tool that can help. people and help, like, especially like things that we spend so many hours doing, right? Or like, spend a lot of time on that prevents us from doing other things. Like, I think it can clear up headspace to be able to do that. But at
Mhm.
the same time, I don't think it should be the end all be all solution for things. Like, I think there's like a lot of things that require humanity. Like, I've been talking a lot about storytelling, right? And how a lot of the reason that storytelling connects with people and people forget this is because of the lived experience and the way that we can connect with like the emotionality and intention behind it. And that's something AI will never understand. And
Mhm.
so I think it's both, right? It's like I can say even with like I have ADHD and I got diagnosed pretty late in life, so it's like still something I'm learning to navigate, and I love writing. Yeah, right? Like I love writing, but
Mhm.
I love editing other people's work. I hate editing my own work. It drives me insane.
Mhm.
And but like sometimes like if I put it into Claude, it will at least give me it like kind of helps me overcome that barrier to entry of looking at my writing again
Yes.
because
Yep.
I'm like spelling and grammar check, please, right? And it's like then it'll point stuff out, and then it's funny because I was my friend who's similar to your like friend is was very very skeptical about it when he like saw me doing that. He's also a writer, and I
Mhm.
was like, look, like it, is it sycophantic and whatever? And I was like, no, I argue with Claude all the time. I'm like. And sometimes
Yeah.
I'll send it again and I'm like, and it's like, I want, you should do this. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to. Like, I don't care how many times you tell me to do it. I'm not going to do it. Right. Cause that's not a thing that I think is accurate, but it does help me with that like spelling and grammar check. And then when I look back at the spelling and grammar, then I also reread the writing and then it helps
Like
my
it
ADHD brain do it,
yeah.
you know?
I do it the same. I use ChatGPT because that's just kinda how I've got introduced into it. And I will like, not my bigger pieces of writing, but my smaller pieces of
Yeah.
writing, like my little blog posts that I write or whatever, I'll run it through and I will say very specifically, "Can you please only edit
Yeah.
the grammar and spelling editors.
Yeah.
If you want to do a light edit for like, readability, please keep my voice and keep it like I'm
Mm,
very like specific. And then I'll
yeah.
reread it and I'll be like, no, no, this is not me. I don't know who
100%.
you think this is. And I will change it. And I mean, one that comes with us from wanting to have the integrity of our work, right?
Hmm.
And that is unfortunately not something that you can teach all the way. Like at a certain point, you just have it or you don't. But at the same time, I think that like that comes along with the regulations part because I agree with you. There's some Barnes and Noble announcing that they're going to sell AI books. Again, not surprising.
What does that mean?
Huh?
What does that mean? Like, what is an AI book?
So that means that there are books. So
Like written by
there's a
AI. Is like that what it
written,
is?
yeah. The only known one that I know about for sure, she's written a crap ton, but she doesn't consider herself an author. She considers herself like a program. But in that time, because she's like, you have to really work with the program to get these things to work properly and get the scenes right. She's like, it takes a lot of like know-how in the AI sphere
Mhm.
to get
Yeah.
it this way. But my best guess is that they're willing to sell those books that are written by AI. And I think this what people are the most afraid of, again, isn't the tool, but
Yeah.
the way that the people higher up will
Yeah.
use that tool. And the Chat GPT thing did not surprise me at all. I'm once again looking at people and being like, how did we not know that this was going to happen
Yeah.
sooner? Right. Uh,
Yeah, I think
I,
again, like it's the nuance thing, right? It's like we have to be able to hold multiple truths together. And when
mhm,
we can't do that, then we end up in these extremes. And like I've been doing these
mhm,
trainings on kind of like the psychological impact of AI and algorithms on our relationship to information, to moving from awareness to action, to one-on-one relationships, to events, right? And it's like fundamentally changed because it's kind of changed the way we engage with everything.
mhm.
And so you kind of have to like be able to understand that, like, yes, I wish it was a certain way, but it's not. Like, yes, I want it to, like, I want us to not be replaced by it. But like, we just kind of have to understand, like, what is going on and be like, yes, it sucks that things have changed this much and that it's this hard to do things and hard to navigate. And we need to understand how, like, think a little harder about how we're understanding and approaching it versus a lot of people want an easy answer and an easy solution to everything, right? And there
Yeah.
isn't one. And like something I've been kind of talking to people about is like the world is we're inundated with more stuff in the world to process than ever before. And so when our
Mhm.
cognitive loads are high, we have significantly less critical thinking abilities. And that is where people are going to these extremes where it's like everything has to be this way or this way. Like everything is black and white, but the world is not black and white. The world is really complicated. And
Mhm.
I think that's what that honestly, if people could hold duality, it would make a lot of things better and a lot of things easier.
Yeah.
And then the other piece to what you were saying, I think I had this experience. So in my many lives, I do a lot of things. Like I am,
Me too.
a creative, like I'm a writer, a director, a producer, but I also am a strategist that has like built organizations and I've kind of worked across industries. And one of my many things that I do and have done is work in politics. And I think
Mhm.
a really interesting thing in the aftermath of the last election, the presidential election, was exactly kind of what you're describing, where it was a lot of us were, we're sad and we're like, okay, this is horrible. And here we go again. Right. And we know it's going to be worse this time. But at a certain
Mhm.
point, like switched over to like, okay, we got to fight now and we got to do something about it. Right. And we have to figure it out. I saw a lot of people, especially in the political space, like a lot of like white men, especially, be
Mhm.
so distraught by the outcome and be so distraught by like just the way people are showing up since then, the racism that's coming to light, like the systemic issues that they're now understanding, and also like it's affecting them for the first time, right? And so
Mhm.
there's, like, so much of that feeling of, like, people being like, "Oh my god, things are really bad," and it's like, "We knew they were bad, so we moved to the fight quickly," and they haven't been able to, and I had a conversation with somebody who was like, "Wait, what do you mean you're not, like, crying still?" And I was like, "Listen, like, all of our communities have had to if we were knocked down by every single thing that was
Yeah.
terrible, we wouldn't be standing at all ever, right?" And so I think that has been an interesting thing to see too. It's like people are like, "Wait, things are
You
bad."
know what? I agree with that. I agree with the duality piece. I wanna say this and then we'll
Yeah.
oh, that is such a
Ooh,
loud
oof.
truck and this
That
like
happens.
crossing right by. I agree with the duality piece. I have always told people that like I'm a walking like dichotomy.
Me too.
I can see both sides. And it's not like I'm playing
Mhm.
both sides, nor is it that I agree with both sides. But I do
Yeah.
think that, like what we're taught in school when we do, oh, it's a bat.
I hope everything's okay.
Okay. What we're taught in school when we write an essay, which I wish people would have paid a little bit more attention to instead of being like, oh my gosh, I have to write this essay. When you write an argumentative essay, you have to write the point that the other person have.
Mhm,
You have to see it from both sides to
mhm,
truly be able to defend your
mhm,
argument.
100%.
Um, and I look at, like, life that way, and a lot of my f even,
Me too.
a lot of my friends are like, "How can you see this?" Like, I hold the belief that someone could be a bad boyfriend, but a good friend to you, and
I 100% agree. I've said this to multiple people when they're going through it. I'm like, "You don't have to villainize somebody. They can be a good person and not good for you." And a lot of people
yeah,
can't. It's easier to, like, get over somebody if you make them the villain and decide everything is wrong with them, but it doesn't have to be. They can just not be right for you.
I completely agree. So, like, I've kind of been that way, so I think that that's why I've kind of really switched into, like, there are benefits and, I'm in the middle in a sense where, like, I am an author, but
Mhm,
I also am a business owner.
mhm.
And the business owner side of me can get so much done for other people, not just for myself, but for other
Yeah.
people when I have more tools and more ways to use
Yeah.
it. And so to me, that's so important. And then, like the politics thing, I agree with you about like I can definitely see what you're saying. It's they're having a hard time catching up. We
Mhm.
people of color are forced to have to process information quicker because our main like mode is survival until we can finally get into a place where that's not the case anymore. And for other people, they jump in and out of the survival mode, but they don't have to like live there all the time. And I'm
Mhm.
not saying that we do. We're just kind of like almost trained to at this point. And so we process it and then we're like, okay, well, this is happening and this is happening, but survival needs to happen. So how do we get to, the solution of this quickly? And for them, they're still caught up on I can't believe this. And I was interviewing another author, and she said, I hope that we catch up to this quickly so we're not behind and playing catch up like we did with social media, where, before, where social media was a tool and we didn't realize, how dangerous or whatever it could be until it was too late. She's like, I hope that we can catch up to this. And I think that's my most frustrating part of all of this, is just that the same thing with like the election and the same things where things are going on, where I'm like, hey, this is going to lead to this. And no one like paid attention. And now we're here. And they're like, oh, how did we get here? And I'm like, I wonder who could have told you this. Oh, wait, it was me the first week that all of this happened. And I feel like that's gonna happen with ChatGPT, and that's the part that frustrates me. We're so focused on this fight that we think is the big fight, and in reality, and to be clear, people and politicians and other people are like feeding you this anger, because what is the real solution, they don't actually want you to do. They want you to fight the fight you're not gonna win. You're not gonna get ChatGPT or, AI to go away. It's never gonna happen. No matter how
Yes.
angry you are, no matter how many times you refuse to use it, anything like that, you're not getting rid of it. Once you accept that fact, then you can move on to, how do we make this beneficial and structured?
Yeah, and I think, it's like two things that I think are really interesting is like a lot of people are not, it's not like malicious that they're not caught up, right? It's just
Yeah.
that I talked to somebody about this the other day, is like other people simply don't have to be aware of these things, right? I'm even seeing some of my friends, like my white friends, being
Mhm.
aware of things that they just didn't have to look at. Right? You just didn't
Mhm.
have to think about or understand or be perceptive of. And now it's being brought to light for them for the first time. And so it wasn't coming necessarily from a place of like, I'm actually actively trying to be malicious towards women, towards people of color. They simply just didn't know. Like, I mean, the simplest example of this, right, is like men don't realize how hyper vigilant women have to be all the time, right? You cannot walk home
Mhm.
alone. Like, you don't, you like watch what time you go walk outside. You're like aware of your surroundings all the time, like all of that stuff. Like, they just simply don't know that that's a thing that happens. And that is our lived experience. And so I think that's interesting because I think part of it is people just simply don't know and they're not aware. And then I do think it's hard because then we get angry at them often for not knowing and
Mhm.
push them away further. Like that happened to me when I went to college. Like I grew up in a place that like I didn't learn any like it was like not great. And then I went to
Mhm.
college and I joined like social justice orgs and community service groups and got just completely yelled at about not understanding systemic racism and the intersectionality of all the issues that were impacting the children that I was working with. And I am a person who was like, I'm gonna go learn everything, right? Like this is what my response is gonna be. But I watched other people also like leave and be like, I'm not like I don't want to be yelled at. And I think that's what's really hard is like I simply
Mhm.
had no way of knowing or understanding that given my education and where I grew up. But I wanted to learn. When someone pointed it out that I needed to learn, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go learn. But by it being an angry thing, I think that made it a lot harder to be able to be like, everyone should stay and get involved and, be part of this on our side. And I had something else to say, but I totally forgot what it was.
Yeah.
What was the last thing you said?
I don't
Oh, I remember. Okay, so I saw this
Okay.
TikTok once that, like, to what you were saying, like, we've been saying this for a long time. I saw
Mhm.
this TikTok once that I really think, to me, explained neurodivergence, especially in like a really interesting way, and especially in workplaces, where I
Mhm.
agree with you. Like, even just the way we campaign and things like that, I've been very frustrated and have been trying to get things to change for a long time, and it's like it kind of didn't. Not people were not receptive, and I saw it was essentially talking about how neurotypical people think in a train line. So it's like A to B to C. And neurodivergent people think in a train system. So we'd like very quickly see all the possible outcomes and circumstances and considerations. It's the reason we can solve complex problems. It's also the reason we have executive dysfunction and like showering is hard, right? And
Showering is so hard.
showering is so hard. It should not be that hard. I don't know how to explain it to people that aren't neurodivergent. They're
Oh
like,
my
what do you
gosh.
mean? You're not just like, I need to take a shower and then I shower. I'm like, no, I wish it was that simple.
No. Oh
Uh,
my gosh. I'm glad that you said that, because I literally, one of the questions I've asked ChatGPT is like, why is getting in the shower so difficult for me?
because you're seeing the train system, right? You're seeing all the possible considerations and you're like, okay, but then if it's not just a shower, it's like, okay, if I have to do this, then I have to wash my hair? What if I work out? What if I do this? Like, it's like too many thoughts. But it's also why we can see the problems before they happen. And also, and now I say, after doing a lot of unlearning, that I'm not often wrong about it. I'm early. And so what this
Yes.
person on TikTok was saying was, she was like, because they think like this and we think like this, we try to we can see that way it's going to go, right? And then we try to prevent it.
Mhm.
And then you get in trouble for slowing things down. And then you end up at that same outcome anyways. And then it's your mess to clean and your problem. And it is why, like, a lot of neurodivergent people are really frustrated in workplaces, because we're like the warning systems, but no one wants to listen to the warning. So
Yeah.
exactly what you said is like that resonated deeply. I think about that TikTok often, and I send it to everyone I know that's neuro.
That's so funny because I people have often told me, like, my mom gets so mad at me because she's like, "You can't always be right." And I'm like, "Sure, you're correct about that, but you haven't spent 17,000 hours researching all these random things to come like there's so much information in my head at all times
Yeah.
that I can see like the widespread." But the funny thing is that a lot of my friends would condemn me and be like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you have this thought about this person or this thing." And
Mhm.
then
Oh, that's so many
2 to
times.
4 years, but my only frustration, it comes years later. I need it to be, like,
Oh, yeah,
days or
100%.
months.
I
It's
wish.
years later. 2 to 4 months later, I mean, 2 to 4 years later, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you were so right about all of this." And I'm like, "Do you" I'm, like, so happy that you came to this point, but do you remember how you tortured me
Yeah, I think,
about
like, people think often that we're just, like, saying things because they don't understand how many thoughts are in our heads all the time before we say things. Like, sometimes it seems impulsive, right? Or it seems like a quick reaction, and it's like, "No, we've
Mhm,
thought about this, like, 400,000 times in 2,000 ways," and, like I always say, I'm like, it's this interesting, like, a gift and a curse, because I'm like, yeah, I can solve complex problems, like, the same way, like, my brain is extremely visual, and
mhm,
anytime I read something, it's like I'm not even here, right? I'm literally dropped into a script, a book, whatever it is. And
mhm.
I'm like, that is the reason that I have trauma, and my trauma gets relived over and over and over again because I feel it physically. But it
Yes.
also is the reason that I'm a great director, because I can see it all and I can produce events really well. And why I'm a great
Mhm,
MC and host and facilitator, it's because I'm
mhm,
aware of everything all the time and I can see it all. But it's like a
mhm.
gift and a curse, and, like, people don't understand that often.
Yeah. Alright, we're gonna pause
Okay, yes,
here.
please.
I'm gonna refill my water real quick, and then we'll
So that's perfect.
okay, so we're like, "Yeah, this is perfect. Alright, we'll be right
Perfect,
back."
perfect.
I'm dead. Quick pause, because if you love dark stories that don't flinch, Olympic War isn't a soft love story. It's violent, it's chosen, and it costs everything. Through war, betrayal, and survival, Moonstone fights for devotion that refuses to die. This is a Black, multicultural dystopian series about power, sacrifice, and what rises from the ashes. Olympic War and Phoenix War. Read them wherever books are sold. We came back at the same time. I love it.
I know, I was like, I just saw you coming back, and I was like, "Oh, wow. We're so in sync." I love that for us.
Okay, today we have Garima. Did I say it?
Ga Garima, yes.
Garima.
Yeah, it's
We have Garima with us, and I want you to give you a chance to introduce yourself, let everybody kind of know who you are, what your background is, everything like that.
yeah, really happy to be here. I feel like we vibe so well. This has already been fun. I'm Garima Verma. I was telling her earlier that I've lived like many lives, and I consider myself
Mhm.
to be completely multi hyphenate creative. It's my favorite term. I don't like just being one thing. I'm, a cultural writer on Substack. I am a director. I'm a strategist. I've worked across, film, television, nonprofits, foundations, politics, all that fun stuff. And I am also like a career coach because I have a strategy and a like creative brain. I like to be able to help people, especially creatives, like bridge that gap of how do you navigate these industries. And I'm an event producer, am an MC and host and facilitator. Like, I like doing a lot of stuff, but to me,
Mhm.
it's always just at its core, it's about human connection and storytelling, and how can we connect with the world around us and connect with each other in meaningful ways. And I've always really believed that storytelling is a really strong and important way of doing that.
I often refer to myself as a multi-hyphenate. I didn't even know that was a word, until very recently. Um
It's a great word, and I think it was popularized popularized by Virgil Abloh, who is like
Okay.
the person that I'm like, that's the kind of career I'd want, you know? So he's
Mhm.
appropriately so, he is the one who like made that term popular.
I had, like, no reference. I started calling myself, like, the Black Kardashian for a second, because like, pop culture-wise, that was, like, the closest thing that I saw to people because they do everything. I mean, not all of them, but, like,
Yeah, but
specifically
like evil a little. Like I was talking to somebody the other day about how they like Kim Kardashian tried to trademark kimono.
I
So like
remember
I want you to be like that. You're better, you're different than that. You're not gonna do
I
that.
remember that it was and I was one of I was weirdly not, like, mad at her. I didn't like when she tried to trademark it. But it
That's
was so like, that was the part for me that was like but I completely understood, like, where her mind was at, like, she wasn't what we were talking about earlier, like, where we would jump to immediately, they don't jump to at all because they don't have that, like, intellect, which was she probably looked at her team after that and was like, "I need to reexamine this team that I have in front of me because clearly if you're only having people who are of a certain color on your team, then you're not gonna be getting no one's gonna be checking you about culture appropriate things, which
true.
is why I really love Skims now, and I don't know if they had her on when they began, but the, like, co-owner, co-founder of Skims and Good American is an Afro-British woman, and
Yeah, I think it's
she
like a
was
both and thing, right? It's like I
yeah.
always think often about like having worked with a lot of leaders, worked with a lot of organizations. I'm like, there are a million people that had to go like this had to go through before it got put out in the world. And so I'm a little bit of like both, where I'm like, yes, there's very possible that she didn't think about it and like it didn't occur to her. And I'm like, before you put something out in the world, there are a lot of people that have to see it. And there are a lot of people that should see it.
Mhm.
So maybe, you know,
I I was very like, "This is so stupid privileged Kim Kardashian." Like, this is the, "Oh my gosh, I left my earring. My diamond earring is in the water," kinda moment, where I was just like, is someone gonna, like, educate this and I think that that's, like, the hardest thing for me with them sometimes is, like, the education piece that they just kind of lack, but I will say one of the things that I like about them versus other people who are of the same stature that do the same thing is that they do have the ability to learn and be like, "Alright, we fucked up." And so,
yeah.
like, the kimono thing was not the best take, although, again, low key, like, if kimonos didn't already exist, it would have been the coolest brand name
I mean,
for
I think
her
that's the
thing.
problem, right? Is like,
Yeah,
oh, it's like it's really just more that
they cared more about the brand name.
trying to yeah, people are caring more about the branding or caring more about the, you know, whatever that is that they're caring about what it means to them and not what it means to
Means to
everyone else, and,
mhm.
like Disney, for example, during Coco, tried to trademark Dia de los Muertos, and it's like, yes,
I did
so,
not
like,
know that.
this is a thing that happens often enough that I think it's a problematic pattern where
Mhm.
people are just thinking about, yes, like, this is a thing that I want or I like, but not
Yes,
thinking
yep.
that, like, these are things that have larger like cultural significance to entire populations of people. And so maybe I need to like also consider them and think about that. Yeah, that was crazy. That was another crazy one.
That was insane, but yeah, I think you're right, like, people get so caught up in their own idea that they're like, "Oh, this is gonna be a great idea," and the money mindset, "Oh, this is gonna be a great idea, the name is gonna be great, Dia de los Muertos, we're making a movie about it, we can trademark it, we can" and it's just like, no one's there to be like, "Yo," and I don't even wanna say no one's there. There's probably some people there that are like, "Yo, pump your brakes," but because people of color are often like, our voices often aren't heard in the first place, they're probably like, "Meh," and it isn't until they have, like, worldwide controversy that then they're like, "Oh," and that's the hard part of, like, some of the cultural things that we have, like, I hate cancel culture, but I understand where it stemmed from and how originally it was beneficial because it was basically just a way to globally bring something to someone's attention where they might have just ignored the few voices before. They couldn't ignore the mass amount of people being like, "This is not okay."
Yeah, I think that's like a big thing, right? It's like, yeah, like we need to be able to think past ourselves and
Mhm.
be able to understand like what and think about like what is the significance of somebody else. But I also agree with you. Like to me, it's like whether it's an interpersonal relationship or it's broader culture, to me, it's like we're all going to cause harm. We're all going to accidentally do things that are problematic. And even if we don't mean to, but to me, like the real judge of somebody's character is what they do when confronted with that harm. Like, do you take responsibility? Do you apologize? Even if you didn't intend to like harm, is that something that you're now taking ownership of? And I think that's like the biggest thing. I also think like that to your point, right? The cultural conversation is interesting because I think there is a difference between appropriation and appreciation. And I think a lot
Mhm.
of the problem is that people aren't like acknowledging and appreciating where a lot of the things that they take are coming from, and they just kind of claim ownership of it on their own. Like, it's like
Mhm.
a lot of major fashion houses have taken a lot of South Asian, like different South Asian fashion recently and just premiered it in their shows and
Mhm.
in their collections and not at all like given any credit to where they came from. And it's not, often it's like you can see it's like kind of inspired by, something vaguely, but some of these are like very overt. Like jhumkas are a certain type of earring, right? And I think
Mhm.
it was Ralph Lauren had that in one of their fashion collections for Paris Fashion Week. And it's like you are literally taking our exact design. Like I think actually I'm wearing them right now. Hold on, let me see. Yeah, so like it's this like kind of like bell design, right?
Oh,
So
those are
that's
gorgeous.
yeah, I mean, a big thing for me is like love to find ways of incorporating my culture into my everyday fashion. And
Mhm.
so like that's why I like doing this. Like, right? I'm like, this is part of me and I want to wear this. But they're just kind of taking it and using it as their fashion week debut. And a
Mhm.
lot of other brands have been doing that recently. And there was like the internet thing. I don't know if you remember the internet thing about the Scandinavian scarf.
I do remember something about that.
So like that, right? It was like everybody was like this like drape shawl, the kind of
Yeah,
um
yeah, yeah, yeah.
thing. That is a chunni or dupatta. Like that is literally like our like what our like clothes look like. It's like something, and then everybody was like, "Wow, it's like so Scandinavian." And to me, it's like that's the problem is you can get inspired by different cultures and like appreciate them. But when you're just straight
Mhm.
up stealing and not acknowledging that like this jumka is like that you're debuting is actually South Asian, like very overtly, and that's like to me the problem. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And that's the problem with it is appreciation versus appropriation, right? Is what are you doing with it?
So, quick question. Have you ever opened your to do list, looked it dead in the face, and then immediately decided that reorganizing your desktop, deep diving on YouTube, or starting a completely unrelated side quest was actually the better life choice? Yeah, same. And that's exactly why this week on Basically Unbothered, we're talking about something that doesn't yell at you to wake up at 5 a.m. or just be more disciplined like some productivity drill sergeant. We're talking about A Pinch of Productivity, the secret sauce for motivation by Don Turner. Because instead of shaming you into being productive, it gives you the pinch framework: pressure, interest, novelty, challenge, and humor. Translation: you're not lazy, your brain is just bored. This is about learning how to work with your brain instead of fighting it so you can actually finish the things you keep putting off without turning your life into a boot camp montage. So, if your motivation bar has been sitting at low HP for a little too long, go check out A Pinch of Productivity wherever books are sold. And maybe, just maybe, we'll finally finish one task before starting five new ones.
Which one? Season 6 with like Serena and Cordell and The best season, hands down. Yeah. This season especially, I'm like, all we are doing is but have you watched it? No, okay, so, like, like, right off the bat, everyone is just making out with literally everyone, and it's so, like, strange because usually, like, there's a reason for it, there's a build up, like, or something. No, right off the bat, like, everyone has to make out with everyone. I'm like, "What is happening?" Yeah. Mhm, mm. I mean, the show handles a lot of things poorly. Most reality TV does. Mm, that is a season I missed, but that is really interesting. I've just heard a little bit about it. Yeah, I remember that. So young. God. Oh, 100%. Oh, 100%. Yeah, yeah. Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I've been writing about that actually a lot recently. Like, I have been really talking and writing about like how reality TV is essentially a social experiment, right? And we're seeing like everything is stripped away. Like you said, you're cut off from society. You're like just kind of with these people nonstop. Like you're being right, you're manipulated by producers and how we show up differently, how that does, right? It does trigger different responses and how like recently reality TV is saying the quiet part out loud, the like worst of our gender and racial dynamics that were always there. They're like a lot of them aren't even hiding it anymore. Like I wrote a weekly series on this like well, oh my god, Traders was like a full microcosm of like what it is like to be any person of color, especially women of color, especially black women in like society in the like most overt way, but I did like a weekly series on the psychology of Survivor 50, and that was a similar thing that was happening. And like one of the things I think is super interesting, right, is like one of my favorite what like ones to write about and talk about was like essentially like the men go around and they're like so emotional and they react to everything and the women can't like the second you do anything you're like you're cut right you're gone and what it was fun about like survivors like in they have confessionals and so you see them like walking around, calming the men, like pivoting them, like whatever. And then in the confessional, they're like, I am so upset. These, like, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse or not, but these people, like, I don't know what to do with them. Like, why am I having to deal with this? Why am I babysitting them? But then they just have to like go through and play. And I think that's why reality TV is interesting to me, is because it's a social experiment. It's like for Survivor, it's like all your physical comforts are taken away. With Love Island, it's like I'm working on a piece actually about that, right? Where it's like Love Island to me is a social experiment for young hot people and also parasocial relationships, because it's not a social experiment for everybody, because all of us cannot deeply relate to their experiences. But what I think is interesting about it is that it's like everyone is extremely attractive, right? And they're like, it's very clear that they are used to being the most attractive person in their dating pool and their friend circles, whatever. And then all of a sudden, they're put in this place with other people that are just as attractive as them. And they don't know what to do. So, like, the crowd, to your point of crash outs, the crash outs are even worse because these are very young people, like you said, who probably have not experienced a lot of rejection, who are used to controlling the dynamic in dating and in their relationships because they're like the prize, quote unquote, right? And now all of a sudden they're not. They're not the prize anymore. They're not like the hottest person in the room. Like they're getting rejected and then they fully crash out because like they don't know what to do with it. And that's what I think is interesting, is like it's like this weird, interesting like perception thing where you are going from being a big fish in a small pond to all of a sudden, what am I supposed to do? And so then the crash out's even worse. I agree. Oh, yeah. 100%. Mhm. Mhm. So much. Yeah. Mm. It's a lot, yeah. I will say, like, I find it to be a good background show. Like, I really don't think you have to pay super attention to, like, everything. Also, to be honest, like, I just, like, really like I miss co-viewing experiences. Like, I miss us all watching and talking about the same things, like, over and over again. Like, we were talking about sports earlier. Sports is, like, one of the only things, and then certain reality TV is like that. Like, I getting to do that with Survivor was really fun, and, like, that's kind of why I like watching it as much as I can. Like, it ends up being a few episodes at a time because I can't watch it every day, but it's nice because then you, like, see people talking about it. You could, like, be part of like conversation and fandom and internet discourse. And I think that there's something really beautiful about that. And that's what I really like about it. But I agree with you. Like, I don't understand. I can't tell if we are just being lazy with our vetting of reality shows or if we are just like abiding by the old school idea of like any publicity is good publicity. Because like Love Island is doing this, I think often about like, do you know the Bachelor situation, like with the Bachelorette? Oh my God. Like the Taylor Swift Paul situation? Yeah. The thing that bothered me about it was the fact that, like, they eventually pulled her season because of, like, the abuse allegations, and kind of it felt like feigned ignorance that they just, like, didn't know. But any of us who've watched The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives know that you literally see it, isn't it in the first episode? Like, you can't pretend like it didn't happen. Yeah. Yeah. It's that part, right? It's like, I think they s I from if I remember correctly, they said, like, "In light of this video," but it's like, you knew, it was there, and that's where my conspiracy theory a little bit is like, are we just not vetting properly, or are we ignoring stuff? Like, with this Love Island stuff, too. It was on a private account from what I saw. I think let me check. Yeah. And I think if it was, right, a private account, it's like an important question to ask the contestants. Are you, which likely they are you going to make your account public? Because if that's the case when you get on the show, then I don't know, it's important to look at what's on their private account then too, because that's eventually going to become public and be associated with your show. Ooh, weird. Ooh, which one? I love that. That's so fun. What is the casting process? Sure. Mm, interesting. I mean, I do think that like, that's also just hits on a generally good point of I've, like, helped people with audition videos and submissions and stuff, right? And it's like, you have to also understand the context of the show, right? It's important to do that kind of, like, research of, like, what exactly are they looking for in the context of not just the show, but also in this season, in this moment we're in, because it makes a huge difference of whether or not you get in. You should try again. Fair, fair. Oh, it's been bad. Oh, interesting. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, sure. Which one? Was that not the OC? Was that not the OC? Laguna Beach, right? Laguna Beach. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. It's hard to be a creative in general nowadays. Yeah. What type of villain would you be? Like, what would be the villain archetype? Mm. Oh, I get that. Mm. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I get that. Yeah, I mean, I do really like that concept, right? That, like, we're just bringing normal people together, and that's where I, like, really like reality TV because it is very much reflective of our reality, of the times that we're in, and, like, even the season of Love Island, it's the first time I think we've had a fully, like, Gen Z season. Like, when people were like, "I'm born in 2003," I was like, "Oh, no, I'm so" when I'm like, "The problem with aging in your 30s is that you're like, I am so much older than all the people that I'm watching on TV now." Um, it gives I'm like, "Oh my god." But it just even the way that they all relate to each other is, like, so different than I feel like the last couple of seasons and the way that my millennial brain can understand, and, like, I think that's really interesting, right? Because 'Cause you're getting this study and even honestly, even, like, the way they look is reflective of popular culture. Like, if you see just, like, because they all, like, have similar body types and stuff like that. Like, who is on Love Island is also reflective of what the popular, like, look is right now. Yeah. I feel that way about, like, not just reality TV. I actually think that about storytelling at large, like, in TV and film and things like that is, like and even plays and theater. I think people forget or people, like, learn the wrong lessons often. Like, the why when they look back and think about the why that this season worked, I think that, like, a lot of people will almost, like, decide everything other than the fact that it was the people and the chemistry and the connection, and like, they'll focus on something else, whether it's, like, the makeup, the type, like, the glitzy, the glam, whatever it is, but everything needs to be to actually connect with people, everything needs to be a story in a setting, not a setting with a story and characters, and I think that's, like, where people often, any and all casting and storytelling, and whether it's fictional or nonfiction, miss the mark. It's like, why that season worked is because we had amazing, like, people. I'm obsessed with all of them, like, I also to your point of the body type, like, I loved that, like, all of them went on the internet and were like, "Here's the plastic surgery I've had, here's the lip filler I've had," and, like, we're very much like, "Look, my body type is actually, like, not real and is not attainable, and I'm telling you this, you don't compare yourself to me," and I think that's, like, incredible and extremely responsible, representation too, and it's like, we loved them and that season worked because they were all so incredible and you, like, really sparked the right cast versus you can't just, like, cast hot people and then expect it to work.
Gabby Gabs podcast.